just like you said, there was so much inflation with Hedron, and frankly, there's still a lot with the 10x multiplier bonuses on the hex stakes for people that participated in that. And one of the narratives I've heard going around, and I haven't made up my mind around it, and we love your feedback, is that Icosa is the better play, if you will. And I know this is like a very subjective thing, whatever the better play, what that actually means. But I think it's interesting to consider the fact that Hedron has so much inflation. Now Icosa is in its early stages where the inflation is significant there. But what would you say to that narrative? What are your thoughts in that respect?
To the narrative that Icosa is a better buy because Hedron just inflates, or at least is given for free to people who don't care about it. A significant portion of the inflation
that is
given
narrative.
to free. Yeah,
right.
So someone else can dump it to oblivion.
Right.
Yeah. So let's see. How do I want to frame this? So the fact that there are people who have a lot of have the faucets of Hedron inflation that at least presumptively don't care about it, like, is true. Like, that's a fact of the system. And I think a fair criticism for people to bring up, like, if you're investing in the system, you should know that there are people who can mint a lot and you don't have the ability to mint that. Versus Icosa, everybody who has it to a degree has put skin in the game to get it, which therefore means they value it. I think that's a perfectly valid line of argumentation on why. Now, there are counter arguments to that. And one is the first, it's reflected in the difference in the ceiling prices that we just saw. But here's another way to frame it. So right now, if you want to mint 1 billion Hedron, the way you would do that, the cheapest, is by accumulating 180 T-shares for 5,555. So you would need to stake 180 T-shares, wait 15 years, and then at the end of that, you get 1 billion Hedron. Now, what that tells me is that
it's a fortune.
The amount, like, that's not happening. Nobody's staking 100. No average retail investor is staking 180 T-shares for 15 years because that's like 200 grand.
On average, yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah, like, most people are priced out of that.
Yeah, most people are priced out of that from just accumulating that much hex. And then the people who have that amount of money, how much of them are comfortable locking that amount of money up for 15 years?
Yeah.
Right.
It's not that many people. It's really only the early hexicans who got these things at so much cheaper that have those large T-shares for that long of a period of time. It's going to take a special person with a lot of money to do that. And they're only getting 1 billion Hedron, which is worth like almost $3 grand right now. But like, that's more accessible to the retail investor. Most people can get 1 billion Hedron, even if they're in a situation where 3 grand is a lot. Over time, they can get it.
Right.
And so what that means is the inflation going forward for Hedron, for new stakes, anybody entering the market is zero. It's negligible. Like 1 billion Hedron in terms of volume, liquidity is nothing. It's zero, right? So the only inflation that we have now is from the people with those large launch phase bonuses with long T-shares. That's another thing to consider, because as people, most of the OG hexicans, all of their stakes aren't for 15 years. They have ladders coming out every month or every quarter. And every single time one of those ends, that 10x bonus is gone like that.
Have you done the math, or have you done the chain analysis, I guess, to see where the majority of all those 10x bonuses, like what year do we need to hit to say, okay, the 60% of those 10x bonuses are out of the system, or where we kind of crossed over that 50% at the very least? Have you done some kind of chain analysis on that to know where I think that's going to make a big difference or a big impact of supply shock in the future.
Yeah. So not yet, but I am working very closely with, with Access Alive and Crispy Man from hexfire.io, and we're coming up with some pretty cool charts in the background. He's a data science wizard, and so me and Access just kind of give him ideas, and he just creates it. But
good.
But that is actually tracking the amount of the backlog of mintable Hedron is probably the next thing on my docket for things I want to create. I'm still working. I want to add it to my chart set on lookintohedron.com, and I want to see that data myself.
Just having that information very accessible would give a lot of new retail investors some assurity about the asset in itself. Yeah. Like, right, even if, like, say, a year from now or even 2 years, we're in the bull run, and we have a lot of new retail coming in, we go, hey, look, you only have about 3 more years left of this inflation, and then that's all you need to hold for. So the next market cycle, you can expect this to really moon, right? Or I don't know, I'm just making something up now, but you get like the talking point we can get out of that. Yeah.
Well, so I won't talk about this stuff that much because I don't really engage with a lot of this stuff as much. Not because I don't want to, but just because I just create my stuff and I kind of go away and like do school. But like, what was it? Where was I going with this? But I find these arguments against Hedron to be kind of lacking because I can find a almost one-to-one corollary in Hex. So like one of the earliest like fun arguments of Hex is like, look, all these OGs are just gonna get all this Hex, they've staked it, and they're just going to dump on your heads into perpetuity. And like that's kind of like the exact same argument. If you look, Axis Alive and Crispy Man have done a lot of work on the bow wave or the rolling Hex stakes of 30 to 90 days. Those people, they stake 30 to 90 days, they skim off the interest, and they dump it, which is the exact same thing that happens with the Hedron minters. Because every time they mint, they have to wait before they can mint that same amount again. So they mint, sell it, wait 30 days, sell it. That's the exact same dynamic that the short-term Hex stakers have, but now we see it in the long-term Hex stakers. So it's like we have this like continual churning out of coins coming into the market, both in Hex, both in Hedron. And the main difference between them, and really the only difference in my opinion, the main difference, I won't say only, that's a pretty strong statement, is that the people in Hex had to at least put money into it first, but the people in Hedron got it for free. That's the only thing that doesn't make it like one for one. But
I don't consider it free, man. They had to wait. They don't realize it when they minted it, but they had to wait 2 years to get that amount of Hedron that they dumped. I mean, it was not free,
but it feels free.
It does.
That's one of the things.
It does. It feels like an airdrop, but it wasn't.
Yep. Exactly. So, I think we have seen the market absorb their supply. Like Hedron has done incredible pumps despite the amount of inflation. And, we have, Hex OGs, like people like Steph, who are very vocal about their selling. And I think that's fine. They've earned the Hedron that they have. It's their money. They're allowed to do what they want with it.
Right.
There's no like ethical problem with them dumping this token. And honestly, it's given people like me who didn't get into Hex that early an opportunity to accumulate an amount of Hedron that I have no ability to access through minting it.